Hare Krishna, everyone. This is acyuta-bhava, and today I am taking a question in my Bhakti Q&A series that came in about purity. So here's the letter that I received. I followed your show for a few years now, and last year I got into Bhakti practices like chanting, singing, and kirtan. I joined a Gita reading group. The inspiration from your channel and the good luck I had finding Bhakti and kirtan classes locally has gotten me through some hard times over the past months. Thank you so much for introducing me to it. First of all, that makes me so happy. I'm really glad to hear that. I feel the same way. That's Bhakti's really saved my life. I wouldn't be, I feel like it's just the blessings are from my Bhakti practice are always just overflowing. Anyway, goes on to say, one of the things I found is that I have a sense that other spiritual people are more pure than I am. I know I shouldn't compare myself to others, but it's more a feeling that I'm not good, pure, devoted enough. I know when I chant that the practice is hopefully pleasing to Krishna, but I feel like I'm at a messy stage of my life, which is slowing my spiritual progress. I'm not sure when I'll manage to find some order and neatness, characteristically sattvic lifestyle. I'd rather go slow with bhakti than go too hard and then pull away from the practice. So this is the first part of the letter, and I'll just try to address some of these points first. And one of the things that I would like to do is reference one of the great bhakti prayers by Lord Chaitanya, the golden avatar incarnation of Krishna in the Kali Yuga that we worship and follow the teachings of in the Hare Krishna tradition. Great teacher. He came about 500 years ago, and he wrote a prayer called the Sri Shikshastakam. And one part of the prayer, he says this. He says, "Let there be all victory for the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna, which can cleanse the mirror of the heart and stop the miseries of the blazing fire of material existence. That chanting is the waxing moon that spreads the white lotus of good fortune for all living entities. It is the life and soul of all education. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna expands the blissful ocean of transcendental life. It gives a cooling effect to everyone and enables one to taste full nectar at every step. My Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, in your holy name there is all good fortune for the living entities, and therefore you have many names, such as Krishna and Govinda, by which you expand yourself. You have invested all your potencies in those names, and there are no hard and fast rules for remembering them. My dear Lord, although you bestow such mercy upon the fallen conditioned souls by liberally teaching your holy names, I am so unfortunate that I commit offenses while chanting the holy names, and therefore I do not achieve attachment for chanting. One who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, but is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy names of the Lord." So let's just pause there. One of the things I found you wrote is that I have a sense that other spiritual people are more pure than I am. So a few things. One is that that's true. There are people who are more pure than we are. If we didn't have people that were more pure than we are, or that were farther along the path of purification, we wouldn't have saintly people and examples by means of which to aim our own lives toward. We are helped along by the spiritual example of saintly people. So it's good. It's not bad to notice that there are people who have done some work that we haven't yet, or who are farther along. For example, every day I find that my wife is significantly more patient than I am in certain areas of our lives, especially with parenting. And her example for me is so important. But there's two ways of looking at her as an example in parenting. I mean, there's things that I'm strong at that she's not too. So we have a good balance in that regard. But if I look at her and I say she's more farther along, and then I feel bad about myself, that's my ego. But if I look at her and I say she's further along than I am, and isn't that beautiful? I want to be like that, and I appreciate her because of it, right? And I can worship those qualities in her as the qualities of Krishna, because anything beautiful about us, any opulence, any virtue, any ability, is not ours anyway. They're just the glimmering reflections of Krishna that have come through and adorned the soul because it's chosen to spend its time with Krishna. So my wife is a devotee. You know, my wife spends time with Krishna. And one of the ways that Krishna has adorned her is with his quality of patience, if that makes sense, the divine quality of patience. So when you see things that are pure in other people and you can appreciate them as Krishna and then use them to inspire you and to be appreciative and grateful that example is showing up, because for many people, the capacity to even see that there's something pure out there that could guide us along is not there. Or if it is, it will be an instant target for the ego to resent or feel competitive or jealous about, or to covet, or to use as a way of demeaning or degrading ourselves, all ego things. So if I can look at my wife and I can say, what a beautiful quality that is, and that quality is an opulence of her spiritual practice. It's a little glimmer of Krishna hanging like an earring off from her or something. And I can really appreciate that as a beautiful quality and aim toward it. Now, but what do saintly people say? What do saintly people do? How do they act the more that they obtain those good qualities or that purification? Well, let's go back to the prayer again. One who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, but is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy names of the Lord. So, um, you know, when you meet people who are authentically pure, one of the qualities that you'll also notice is that they don't need or want any accolades. They're not looking for any kind of appreciation or medal or recognition for being pure, because they realize that the purity is God's. It's not ours anyway. You know, it's like if you become robed in the white, garments of virtue, um, the soul that becomes robed in those garments of virtue recognizes those are the robes of virtue. Those are the garments of virtue. They're not mine. They're they exist as their own things, and I've chosen to associate with them enough that they have blessed me with their adornment. They've hung themselves around me. They've wrapped me up. And when you feel that way, you know that if you start claiming them as yours, they'll leave, because they're not yours. And when you get possessive, they leave. When you associate with them but don't claim them, they stay. So one of the things you wrote is that you found that you have a sense that other people are more pure than I am. First of all, that can be a really good thing. Second of all, make sure that you're relating to people that you see as more pure than you from a standpoint of appreciation. Remember that truly pure people also will not try to make you feel bad by comparison. They'll be humble, and the symptom of purity is non-attachment, non-possessiveness to virtue itself. You wrote that I know when I chant that the practice is hopefully pleasing to Krishna, but I feel like I'm at a messy stage of my life, which is slowing my spiritual progress. Remember in Lord Chaitanya's prayer, the first verse that he says is that the chanting is it cleanses the heart and stops the miseries of the blazing fire of material existence. That chanting is the waxing moon that spreads the white lotus of good fortune for all living entities. It is the life and soul of all education. It gives a cooling effect to everyone. These kinds of things. So we can't be somewhere that we're not. If you're at a messy stage in your life, what good would mantra as medicine be if there weren't a sickness to be cured? So it's totally natural and in fact normal for all living entities who are wrestling with Maya, samsara, this wheel of material energy, never beginning, never ending. It's completely natural for us to be in a messy stage. The entire material universe is messy in a sense, right? And so our spiritual practice is there to purify. If we're not purified yet, comparing ourselves to other people in a negative sense never helps. And to think I'm disqualified because my life is messy negates the very point of why we do it in the first place, which is that we need it because entangling ourselves with the material energy or Maya is messy. So it's okay. You're describing the exact prerequisite for needing mantra meditation in our lives. So I hope that that's helpful. And remember, who was it that was saying this prayer, saying one who's more tolerant than a humble than a blade of grass, tolerant than a tree, gives all respect to others, asks for none in return, chants the holy name for the sake of purification. This was an incarnation of God. So even God, in other words, sees benefit in being humble, in chanting, and in feeling this, not seeking out worthiness. That's God speaking, right? Think of how incredible that is, that even God likes to pray, that purification as a process is more like standing under a beautiful waterfall. Not at a certain point, it's not even really because you're dirty and you have to clean. It's just because standing in the stream of purification, in humility, in respect, in not feeling worthy, it's the best place to be. Even God likes to hang out there, right? Even God likes to pray. Even God likes to worship, because these activities are, the bhakti is an end unto itself. Devotion, love, chanting, remembering, singing, being humble, not feeling worthy, but at the same time not feeling unworthy, in a sense, not feeling like some kind of ego badness about ourselves, but not feeling, we're standing in the place where it's like, I'm not worthy of anything. I just want to be emptied. I want to be humble, and I want to sing and serve and love. That's the space that even God likes to stand in, you know? So it's okay if you feel that way. It's encouraged, in fact, just as long as it doesn't go onto the side of self, chastisement. You said, I do sometimes get social anxiety as well, so the intellectual Gita reading doesn't suit me as much as the heart-opening chanting and singing, which have a profound effect on my life the past few months. I find the latter such a beautiful release from the stress of the day. That's true. For some people, chanting, singing, that's going to be where it's at. And you got to listen to what your niche is. There's so many different bhakti practices. At the same time, um, uh, there's a lot to be learned from the Shastras. That they're filled with teachings that help us with the mind, because the mind, if it doesn't have teachings to direct it, will always try to control, because it feels like it has to. So the scriptures and the philosophy help us to train the mind, and that's part of bhakti. We need that because we're living in a world where our mind will be engaged, and we want our mind to help us with bhakti. We can't have it help us with bhakti if we're not training it how to think, and how to think in terms of bhakti, which is what studying the Gita does. You said that you struggle with the archaic language of the text. Yeah. That's very normal, and it helps to have teachers. It really helps to have teachers that can help you find ways of repackaging the concepts in language that feels comfortable to you. You also said, my question is, what advice do you have for someone feeling the spiritual imposter syndrome? Well, first of all, it's not a bad thing. In fact, it's kind of the goal of bhakti to feel like an imposter, but not in a way that is part of the self-aggrandizing ego. I'm so bad. I'm so ugly. I'm not, that's more self-focus. Just try to turn the spiritual imposter into feeling like a beggar, but with a bowl that's open to receive heavenly love. I'm an imposter here. I don't deserve anything. I don't know how to do anything. My life is messy. There's all these people that I'm sure are far more advanced than I am. In fact, many of the Shastras in Bhakti describe that if you stay in that place without it being directed back to self-loathing, that if you stay in that humble place with a sincere heart, that that people will fill your cup, people will fill your bowl. We're all beggars in a sense, and we need to stay in that place to receive bhakti. But you have to differentiate between the good version of that, the healthy version of that, the pure asking, the sincerity of our humble position, versus self-hatred or loathing, which is never good. You said, my instinct is to carry on doing the chanting and singing and take a break from the reading group until I've addressed these issues. This must be an important part of my journey going back home, and I'll honor it whilst keeping Krishna in my heart. Well, my recommendation for you would be to try to keep with the reading group, but perhaps reach out to the leaders, and or reach out, you're welcome to reach out to me too, or find someone to help you study in a way that is more personal, perhaps in a way that helps you translate the language into terms that are, easier. A lot of in the Bhakti communities, our Guru Srila Prabhupada, his writing style is also reflective of his own mood as a person and the era that he came from and stuff like that. So sometimes, repackaging, finding a different translation, stuff like that. But it's important to keep studying the Gita, in particular if you're on the Bhakti path, because it teaches your mind how to, um, ninja your way through the mental mind maze and the minefield of mental stuff that we do have to face. We can't always sing and chant, and so most of us aren't in a space where it can be like that. So we need our mind to be able to know the philosophy well enough to apply it in everyday situations, so that we keep coming back to the chanting and singing, and those things increase. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. Carry on, keep on the good work. If there's any other way I can be of service, let me know. And I hope for everyone listening today that this question was helpful. You have served all of us by helping us understand things through the questions that you asked. So thank you. If you guys have questions, feel free to email me, info@nightlightastrology.com. Put Bhakti Q&A in the subject line. Hare Krishna, everyone.